and welcome to ASP's video training series. Today we're going to be talking about insulation. Insulation is a key component in keeping homes warmer in the winter and cooler in the summer, and is a frequent project we see at ASP. For safety purposes, long-sleeve shirts should be worn when dealing with fiberglass insulation. N95 masks, eye protection, and gloves are also required to avoid irritation. If installing insulation under a house, wear a hard hat and a disposable hazmat suit. The type of insulation you'll use depends on the project, but the most common type you'll work with on ASP projects is fiberglass insulation. Every form of insulation has an R value. This stands for the resistance value of the material, or the ability of the material to resist the flow of heat. The higher the R value, the better the insulator. So when installing fiberglass insulation, ASP uses certain R values based on the project. For floor projects, install R19 insulation. For 2x4 walls, R13, and for pitch ceilings, we use R30. If you're working on a flat ceiling, you'll use R38. Check out our construction manual for more details on specific R values. Keep insulation in a clean, dry place before installing. Wet insulation should never be used. Fiberglass insulation comes in two forms, faced and unfaced. Faced insulation has a paper backing that makes installation a little bit easier. You'll typically use a staple gun and T50 staples to install it. Whenever you see paper on insulation, you need to make sure that the paper side faces the inside of the house. And we use the phrase paper to the people to help remind us of that. So to install faced insulation, unfold the tabs on either side of the paper. Use these to staple the insulation to the face of the framing members. Place in a staple every 18 to 24 inches. Take care where two pieces of insulation meet, as well as the top and bottom plates of the wall. There shouldn't be any gaps, as this will allow air to pass inside and out. And if need be, you can use tape to make sure that everything is sealed well. Around electrical boxes and openings, cut a hole in the insulation, making sure that it will fit tightly around the obstruction. Take care not to compress the fiberglass, as this also reduces the R value. Unfaced insulation can be used under floors and in attic space. We use unfaced sometimes because faced insulation is hard to install from under a floor or above an attic. In the attic, it can be laid into place if the ceiling is in place. But if there's not drywall on the ceiling yet, you can use drywall tape to temporarily keep it in place. Staple it across the ceiling joist every 24 inches and slide the insulation above the tape. Take care not to allow any gaps between the joist and the insulation. Around any heat-producing obstruction, leave a 3-inch gap. For underfloors, you'll need to use chicken wire, house wrap, or mesh to keep the insulation up and in place between the floor joists. Cut the holding material into wide strips and staple perpendicularly to the joists. House wrap comes in very long tubes, but we cut off a section for you so that you can use smaller strips underneath the insulation. To cut fiberglass insulation, use a 2x4 and a utility or an X-Acto knife. And lay the 2x4 across the insulation. Use it as a straight edge to cut across, making sure not to compress the insulation for too long. When installing insulation, it's important to keep in mind that it should touch the framing, drywall, or OSB on 5 sides. For example, if insulating a floor, it should touch the joists on both sides, it should touch the band joists on both sides, and it should touch the subfloor above the insulation. When insulation touches on 5 sides, it ensures that the thermal barrier surrounds the entire living space, leaving no air gaps. This is critical to maintain the R value of the insulation and to provide the most effective insulating properties. Sometimes you'll see foam board insulation being used, and these are 4-foot by 8-foot sheets of varying thicknesses that are sometimes used in projects like underpinning. While fiberglass insulation should not be compressed, foam board insulation should be installed as tightly as possible, and this will prevent air gaps and conceal areas in order to prevent water damage. Try to install foam board in full sheets where possible, creating the fewest amount of seams. Every seam should be sealed with mastic or special tape to prevent air infiltration. We hope that this has been helpful. For more information about insulation, please reference our construction manual found online at asphome.org.